Bonkers bishops. We're about to see 6 incredibly good positions. As the title of this video implies, they're pretty bonkers. I mean, they're all studies. This first one's from 1908. Pause the video, white to play. What would you do? Looks pretty good at first. White's a piece up. You know, these pawns are looking pretty strong to roll through the middle with these bishops supporting them. Your only slight fly in the ointment is this g2 pawn. So just deal with that g2 pawn and everything's sorted. And then you're looking at it and you're going, deal with that g pawn. Hang on a minute. How are we going to deal with this g pawn? And it's one of those positions that you first look at and think, oh yeah, white's winning this, and then it dawns on you, white's in massive trouble. How are we stopping this g pawn? The black bishop's just going to get out of the way, and that g pawn's becoming a queen. So you might look into ways to stop it. Bishop c5 suggests itself, so that when black plays bishop h2, you just get the f pawn out of the way to guard the g1 square with your bishop. But black simply takes it, and now they're threatening bishop f2. If you move the king after bishop, sorry, they're threatening bishop g3 check. If you move the king after that, f2, the pawns are coming through. G1 queen check to follow, or lose your bishop, and then g1 queen check. So you have to do something about that, because if you allow bishop g3 check, you can't block with the bishop, because then your bishop's pinned to your king, and g1 equals queen ends the game. So you have to block it now. You have to play bishop f2 now. You might be thinking, well, black's still got the same trick. Just play bishop g3. And the bishop's overworked. It can't defend g1. And, you know, I mean, it's pinned to the king. But the thing is, you can take it with check and then come back to f2. And white would actually be winning that position, of course. So black doesn't play bishop g3. One idea they might have is just to move their king, which is them threatening bishop g3. But now white can bring their king to d2, and after bishop g3, they could just play king e3. And the engine's given this as a draw after bishop back to h2, for example. So black's not going to do that. Black's got a sneakier move than just moving the king away. They've got something far more threatening, and in fact far more winning. They play bishop f4. Okay, and the idea here is, and they've covered the d2 square. If you just sort of carry on as if there's not a problem with c5, this was black's plan. They go bishop g5. And there's nothing you can do about this bishop h4 move. You might try bishop g3 check, king back to d8. You might try king f2, but then there's bishop e3 check. So this bishop f4 guarding the d2 square, but you're threatening this. Really, really powerful threat that white hasn't got. I mean, if white just sort of plays a nothing move, black just carries on. What if white tries king d1? We still do this. We still do bishop g5. And the important bit is that when we play bishop h4, white's got no way to get their king to e3. They want to play this, but they can't, of course. The d2 square's covered. They can cover the bishop this way, but then their bishop's pinned to their king. And white's just absolutely stuffed. So back in the original position, bishop c5 doesn't work. If you play bishop c5, black gets out of the way, forces you to move the f pawn. They take the f pawn, and then when you have to play bishop f2 here, this sneaky little plan is pretty much unplayable. And you're like, oh, we're in trouble. I can't think of another way to stop the g pawn. And then it dawns on you, and it also dawns on you. I mean, this is a position from the Dvoretsky book after he's just explained some of the drawn positions. I think this one's about to become the Ponziani position. d6 check. And you can see black has to take that. If black doesn't take that, we're getting a queen. So it takes with the bishop, That's all right. We're now covering the h2 square, so black has to take that. King takes d6. c5 checks. You basically sacrificed everything just to get your bishop to f1. If black doesn't take that, that's obviously drawn. I mean, it's opposite coloured bishops, and black's only got one pawn left. So takes. And now they have to get their bishop out of there. You're threatening to take their bishop, and it has to come to h2, of course. You could pause the video again here if you wanted. What we're going to do here, I mean, the bishop's out, but we play f3. Absolutely amazing. Forcing the swap of pawns. The only way that black can avoid that swap of pawns, well, they can take, but then king f2 wins the f3 pawn next go. The only way they can avoid that swap of pawns is g3. And you just push the f pawn, just get rid of it. You've got the Ponziani position. Draw. Next, 1895 study. White to play. Pause the video and have a go at it. You might remember this position if you've watched a video I made on knight versus pawn. And there's a reason I've just sort of suddenly swapped from Bonkers bishops to a knight endgame I've already followed. And it's because the only winning move in this position was a4, giving up your last remaining pawn because you've got a checkmate. All of black's moves are forced here, by the way. With a single knight. So going back to this one, I mean, if the penny's just dropped, you're thinking, no, really? With a single bishop. That's incredible. First of all, you've got to save the g-pawn. So you go bishop h6 check. King g8 is, of course, forced. Then you push the g-pawn. You push the g-pawn. Let's look at black's options. The most beautiful one is king f7. And you play g8 equals queen check. King takes. King e6. Forces king h8. King f7. The e-pawn moves, and bishop g7, checkmate with a single bishop. How cool is that? Alright, I'm not going to play king f7. I'm going to play e6 check. And now you've just got to be careful with tempi, really, and just sort of having the right move, the right number. It's timing. It's all about timing, really. So we go king d6. If black plays king f7, then we come back to e5 with the king. King goes back to g8, which was forced, really. That was black's only move to stop g8 equals queen. King f6, allowing the e-pawn to be pushed. And like I say, it's all about timing. King e7, e4, back to f6. The e-pawn falls, and you're just going to round up the h-pawn. In fact, all you need to do now is stick your bishop on this diagonal and wait for the pawn to hit h4, because if the king ever comes to h7, king f7, and we are queening. So that was e6. What if black tries e5? Okay. Slightly different, but king e6, stopping king f7 straight away. e4, king f6, I think we've just transposed. So you had to check the e6 and the e5 moves, but the beautiful line is, of course, this. Checkmate with a single bishop. How about that? 1895, some guy came up with that. Right, this one's much more recent. This is from 1997. White to play. It's quite tricky, this one, actually. I think I found the drawing idea and didn't quite execute it properly, because there's also a sort of a zugzwang needing to lose a move in the middle of it. But even if you can just get the drawing idea, that's maybe a good start. So what we're trying to do is obviously if black loses this pawn, it's a draw. But we're sort of going to try and make black box their own bishop in. So we play c4. If that pawn is taken, then it's pretty easy, because we can just bring our king to d2, and it's just going to come to c3, and there's just no way that black's ever going to get their bishop out. All they could do is move it back and forth here, and then we can just sort of push the e-pawn at the right time, and come back to b2. I think we can even come back to b2 and win the bishop actually as well. But black's more dangerous move is b4, just pushing that pawn. Okay. And now we've got a choice of what to do next. I think I went king d2. I think when I first did this study, I tried king d2, and it's not good enough, because after king c5, you hit the bishop, bishop a2, king back to d2, the bishop's out, basically. So you can't do that. You can't play king d2. You have to play king d1, so that when the king comes to c5, then you can play king d2. It's all about timing, because if the king takes the pawn, then king back to c1, and the bishop has to go to a2. And if the bishop goes to a2 immediately, then you've got c3, either swapping the pawns or getting the Ponziani position, which is a draw. So yeah, it was king d1, and when the king comes to c5, then king d2. Let's just keep going with the main line though, because there's something else as well that another chance to mess it up, basically. King takes c4, king c1, bishop a2, and here you have to play king back to d2, so that when the king moves, it doesn't really matter where the king goes. Then you play c3. The only way black can avoid the exchange of pawns is to play b3, and you've got the Ponziani position. But in this position here, instead of king d2, you still had the chance to mess it up with king b2, at which point black plays bishop b3, exclamation mark. How cool is that? And when it gets taken, the king comes and grabs the pawn. We're going to outflank the white king to win the b pawn as well. And remember, when the pawn's on the 5th rank, if the black king occupies any of these 3 squares, it's a win. It doesn't matter who's got the opposition, it's a win. So yeah, well done if you found the Ponziani position theme that was key to drawing that game. Or that study, I should say. Right. This is a bonkers bishop that can't get to the pawns, basically. White to play. What are you going to do? First thing you want to do, push the a pawn. That's quite an easy move to find. How does black stop that a pawn? I mean, this isn't particularly clever, is it? Bishop h6, because the e3 square is covered. So bishop f8, far more sensible idea. You come and block the c5 square, come and cover the c5 square. Bishop h6, and that's it. We're going to get some sort of back and forth thing going on. King e4 back to d5. What's going on? This is just a boring draw. What's so good about this? It's the next move that's an absolute thunderbolt. g5 check. forking the king and the bishop. That pawn has to be taken, of course, otherwise black's lost a piece, and this one's just going to promote. Or if the king comes across to the queen's side, then that pawn's going to promote. So that pawn has to be taken. If the king takes it, then the bishop's no longer able to get to e3, so we just push the a pawn. And if the bishop takes it, then the bishop's no longer able to get back to this c5 square, so then you play king e4. So back on h6, king e4 didn't do anything because of bishop f8, but their king's in the way of their own bishop now. So this king on f6, almost deliberately maybe by the person who set up the study, was just kept getting in the way of the bishop all the way through. What's black going to do? Bishop h4, king f3. It's over. There's no way to stop the promotion of this pawn. Much harder, but a similar theme, is this one. Pause the video. White to play. What would you do? So we push the a pawn. Let's look at how black might try and stop that. One idea is f3, which clears the e3 square for their bishop. f3 we can just take, and the bishop can come to e3, sure. We push the a pawn. This king comes across to g7 to maybe deal with the h pawn, but white's just got too many pawns, basically. This is just pants all over the place. It's just, I still don't really understand the pants. I think it should be trousers, but I quite like saying pants. Yeah, there's just pants everywhere. And a bishop and a king just can't cope with pants everywhere. Gone. So black can't play f3. We'll try bishop h4 though, just come to the f2 square. Okay. Then we see king d3. What's the point of king d3, you might ask? Bishop back to f2, and here we go. e4. Brilliant move. If black doesn't take that, it's just pants again. You know, king f6, there's just too much. Push the h pawn, king g6, push the e pawn. There's just too many pawns coming through, and black just can't deal with them. I mean, they might try king g7, you just push the e pawn. Too many pawns coming through. So black has to take it. Just get rid of one of the pawns, but then the disadvantage of that, of course, is... I was about to say the disadvantage of that is they've blocked the king e2 and the bishop's being blocked. But first of all, you play d6. Okay. If you play king e2 immediately, now bishop back to g3, and the bishop can come back here, and it's fine. So what you do first of all is you push the d pawn to create an extra block, basically. E takes d6, then king e2. d5, desperately trying to engineer a way to stop the a pawn. a6, d4, and then this next move is pretty important, because if you just carelessly push the a pawn, we'd see d3 check, king takes d3, e2, attacking that pawn and threatening to queen, and that's just a draw. So back in this position, you have to play king d3. If e2, we can just take it. If d3 check, we can just take the bishop. How about that? Last but not least, this is a study from 1930. White to play. Pause the video. What would you do? So we want to push the h pawn, of course. This king can't catch our h pawn. How's black going to guard the h8 square? They're just going to push the e pawn, basically. But if we can deflect the bishop off this diagonal and then push the h-pawn, we're done. Okay. By the way, if we let black push the e-pawn, we're never going to be... I mean, this bishop's got, what is that, 8 squares, so another difference. Well, can't use this one, but it's got 6 different squares it can go to and stay on that diagonal. It's sort of an easy draw for black. So we don't do that. We play bishop a7. And of course, black doesn't take on a7 because then we will just queen. Black plays bishop a1. We attack. Bishop back to c3. Attack the bishop again. Bishop back to a1. Black doesn't care. You can attack their bishop all day. They'll just keep moving it backwards and forwards between c3 and a1. After your next move, they're just going to play e4 and they're guarding the h8 square. So, yeah, not a problem. And for example, king d3, e4 check. That's it. They're guarding the h8 square. So what do? Well, you chuck in this thunderbolt. Bishop d4. Brilliant move. If black takes with the pawn, we play king d3. The bishop's blocked. This pawn's queening. So black has to take with the bishop, but then you still play king d3. If the pawn comes forward, you take the bishop. So bishop goes back, preparing e4 check, but then you block the e-pawn. Absolutely amazing. I think every single one of those 6 positions is absolutely amazing. And I think they're all pretty bonkers. So bonkers bishops.